The history of radio begins from the 19th century. It is primarily marked by technological advancements in the techniques of broadcasting. James Clerk Maxwell in 1846 gave mathematical explanations for the propagation of radio waves. Henrik Rudolf Hertz in 1888 practically showed in a laboratory setup that radio waves could actually propagate. In 1892, Nikola Tesla successfully experimented with the transmission of radio frequency. The very next year, in 1893, Tesla proposed its application for telecommunication purposes. In 1895, Marconi developed a wireless system that was capable of transmitting the human voice over a distance of up to 1.5 miles or 2.4 kilometers. The sinking of the Titanic proved to be a blessing in disguise for the development of wireless communication on a global scale. It provoked telecommunication scientists to develop a wireless system of communication that was capable of sending instant messages, especially in the case of a natural disaster or when on a sea voyage. Numerous experiments were conducted in this regard that finally led to the evolution of radio communication in the present modern form. I am Amrita Ghosh Kumar and the subject expert for this lesson is Dr. Shakil Akhtar. Today we are going to begin a series of lectures in radio by looking at the history of radio in this lesson. The second decade of the 20th century is a milestone for radio broadcasting in India. To start with, the radio broadcasting in India was amorphous and scattered. Amateur radio broadcasting played a key role in the growth of radio in India. Actually, these clubs were the predecessors and the missing link of broadcasting. A bunch of radio lovers obtained individual licenses and established amateur receiving centers. The first amateur radio club, the Madras Radio Presidency Club, was formed on May 16, 1924 in Madras Presidency. Although the club existed for more than 3 years, yet the broadcasting over the Madras Presidency Radio Club was very short-lived and ended on July 31, 1924. Owing to fiscal losses, the Madras Presidency Radio Club was completely shut down in October 1927. The Madras Presidency Radio Club sold its broadcast transmitter to the Madras Corporation. This step proved to be a good omen for radio broadcasting in India. The Madras Corporation commenced regular transmission from April 1, 1930. Madras Corporation broadcast a bouquet of programs that catered to a wide section of society, including students. The Madras Corporation hired the services of Mr. Bullough for developing broadcasting in the Madras estate. When in 1935 All India Radio Madras was set up, the Madras Corporation was merged into it. In 1936, the Young Men's Christian Association started an amateur radio club in Lahore. It received an annual grant of Rs 1500 from the Punjab Textbook Committee, while the rest of the expenses were met by the Punjab government. Amateur radio broadcasting in India continued till 1937. By the dawn of the 20th century, two distinct schools of radio broadcasting emerged, namely the American broadcasting and the British broadcasting. In 1906, Brant Rock broadcast an experimental program on Christmas and New Year's. It contained music and poem reading and a short talk. This program was heard on the ships over 100 miles away with the help of wireless sets. Such types of radio stations were run by amateurs. In the United States, David Sarnoff, also known as the father of radio broadcasting, played a key role in popularizing radio among the masses. In 1916, Radio Corporation of America and the National Broadcasting Company were established. This step provided the necessary impetus for the development of radio broadcasting in the United States. Radio broadcasting in the United States grew at a very fast pace. Initially, it was unorganized and asymmetric. In 1927, the Congress passed the Radio Act that abolished the monopoly of the businessmen on radio broadcasting. Subsequently, the Federal Communication Commission was formed. The Federal Communication Commission was mandated with allotting the wavelengths to the broadcasters. The abolition of monopoly resulted in the formation of various other statutory bodies in the United States. Prominent among them were the Columbia Broadcasting System, the Mutual Broadcasting System, and the American Broadcasting System. The Federal Communication Commission developed radio broadcasting in an organized and planned manner. The Federal Communication Commission also set up educational radio stations. The KDKA station in St. Petersburg on November 2, 1920 started the first ever commercial broadcasting in America. By the end of 1921, there were 8 functioning commercial radio stations in the United States. In 1922, several stations in the United States were linked together through the telephone cable. It was a revolutionary step that completely transformed the face of broadcasting and paved the way for further groundbreaking experiments in the field of radio broadcasting. As a part of the new experiment strategy, the New York and the Chicago radio stations were connected via the telephone cable and the local football match was broadcast live. In 1926, the National Broadcasting Company bought New York-based WEAF. Hence, began the organized scheduled broadcasting in the United States. The trajectory of the development of radio broadcasting charts quite a different course in Britain. The first ever radio broadcasting in Britain took place in 1919. The transmitter for this radio broadcast was installed in Ireland. From 1919 to 1920, half-an-hour programs were broadcast daily from the Chelmsford station. After this, a 6-kilowatt transmitter was installed at Chelmsford. The program included talks and music. The Post Office, which exercised full control over radio broadcasting in Britain, imposed a complete ban on radio broadcasting from Chelmsford radio station. However, the Post Office allowed amateurs to carry on the radio broadcasting. This proved extremely helpful in the expansion of radio in Britain. This is evidence from the fact that in 1921 alone, the Post Office issued about 4,000 licenses for the receiving sets. Also, the Post Office permitted amateurs to set up transmitters. When the number of societies of amateur broadcasters reached 63, they demanded regular broadcasting. These demands were accepted on a very limited scale. The Marconi Company was given a weekly slot of just 15 minutes. The first record of formal radio broadcast in Britain dates back to 1922. On February 14, 1922, Marconi Company established an approved radio station near Whittle at Chelmsford. The first program from the Whittle radio station was broadcast on May 11, 1922. On October 18, 1922, British Broadcasting Company or the BBC was established as a private firm. In 1925, on the recommendation of the Parliament, British Broadcasting Company was dissolved and a new public corporation, the British Broadcasting Corporation, was set up. Encouraged by the success of radio broadcasting in Europe, a group of enthusiastic Indian businessmen started a broadcasting company with little capital. Initially, 2 very low power stations were set up, first in Kolkata and then in Mumbai. During the next 3 years, the company was successful in attracting more than 7,000 listeners. The first ever private radio broadcasting firm in India was started by 2 Parsi businessmen, namely R.M. Chenoy and Sultan Chenoy, in 1923. In July 1924, it was registered as an Indian Radio Telegraph Company. The Indian Radio Telegraph Company had a tie-up with the Marconi Company in 1925 to build transmitters at the Pune facility. After the establishment of a private firm by the name Indian Broadcasting Company in 1927, regular radio broadcasting began in India. But the Indian Broadcasting Company was closed down on March 1, 1930. Under pressure from the public, businessmen and the political parties, the colonial government on April 1, 1930 gave broadcasting under the direct control of the Ministries of Industries and Labour. The new broadcasting entity was now known as the Indian State Broadcasting Services. In a communique dated October 9, 1931, the colonial government declared to discontinue the Indian State Broadcasting Services. In 1934, P.G. Edmonds was appointed as the controller of broadcasting in India. In order to consolidate internal broadcasting, the colonial government decided to establish a radio station at Delhi. For this purpose, experienced from BBC were hired. The princely estates of colonial India showed keen interest in the development of broadcasting. On September 10, 1935, the Mysore estate set up radio station on the lines of the All India Radio. In 1939, the Gaikwad family of Baroda established the Baroda radio station. The Nizam of Hyderabad founded 2 radio stations in Hyderabad and Aurangabad. In the August of 1935, Lionel Fielden was appointed as the controller of Indian broadcasting. Fielden was instrumental in providing a definite shape to radio broadcasting in India. Fielden hired the services of H.L. Kirke of BBC. Kirke emphasized the need to install medium wave transmitters. After 5 months, Kirke left India and C.W. Goyder joined as the chief engineer in India. Birth of All India Radio was in 1936 after the inception of the Delhi station. The name of the Indian State Broadcasting Services was changed to the All India Radio on June 8, 1936. The name of All India Radio was given by Lionel Fielden. The kickoff of the Delhi station on January 1, 1936 was a major milestone in the history of broadcasting in India. The first Information and Broadcasting Minister of independent India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, took up an ambitious plan to expand and develop radio in India. To cater to the linguistic needs of the various regions of the Indian Union, Sardar Patel launched pilot projects and established radio stations in different regions of the country. In the wake of the heavy exodus of Punjabis from Pakistan to East Punjab, a pressing need was felt to start broadcasting services for the Pakistani Punjabi immigrants. Hence, on November 1, 1947, the Jalandhar station came into being with rudimentary infrastructure including a small transmitter and associated broad equipments. Installation of high-power transmitters at the regional and zonal levels followed much later. The ambitious plan that Sardar Patel took up could not bear fruits initially. Only 2 stations, one at Allahabad on February 1, 1949 and another at Ahmedabad on April 16, 1949. 2 more radio stations came up on January 8, 1950 and May 14, 1950. On April 1, 1949, the radio stations of 4 princely states of Hyderabad, Aurangabad, Mysore and Trivandrum were integrated with All India Radio. Although by 1950 the All India Radio network consisted of 21 stations, however the reach was very low on account of low power transmitters. Under the 5-year plans, radio received special attention from the government. As a result, a number of stations were set up in the nation during the first 5-year plan. By the end of the first 5-year plan, that is between 1952 to 57, All India Radio covered 50% of the country's population and 30% of the land area. The second 5-year plan witnessed little growth in radio broadcasting. As a result, there was only a marginal increase in the service area of All India Radio. By the end of the second 5-year plan, All India Radio covered 55% of the total population and 37% of the total national land area. The third 5-year plan was the much more ambitious one. Rupees 1400 crores were allocated for the development of radio in India. The core area of concern was expanding the medium wave network in the nation. This was to be achieved through either upgrading the already existing low power transmitter to high power transmitters or by opening up radio stations thus far uncovered. Among other important proposals, the third 5-year plan proposed to increase the production and use of low-cost single-band receivers and strengthening the radio networks in the urban areas by installing 1 kilowatt medium wave transmitters. But in 1962, soon India broke out. Therefore, the 1960 plans had to be truncated. By the end of the third 5-year plan, the reach of AIR's medium wave service extended up to 70% of the total population and 52% of the total land area. The fourth 5-year plan, that is 1969 to 1974, is marked by technical expansion of the All India Radio. The four stated objectives of the sixth 5-year plan, that is 1980 to 1984, were 1. Consolidation and expansion of local services, 2. Strengthening of external services, and 3. Development of dedicated national broadcasting channels, and finally 4. The introduction of local broadcasting. For the developing broadcasting in India, a comprehensive basic plan was prepared in 1966. This entails a complete overhaul of the colonial legacy. The radio setup was restructured, including the administrative machinery and external services. Rural broadcasting was given emphasis. Hence, programs were made in 19 scheduled languages and 125 regional languages and dialects. In the post-independent period, transmitters were installed across the country at a rapid pace. All India Radio entered the realm of external broadcasting shortly after the outbreak of the Second World War on 1st of October 1939, when it started a service in Pushto for listeners across what was then the country's northwest frontier. Since then, the External Services Division of AIR has been a vital link between India and the rest of the world, especially with those countries where the interests of India are intertwined because of the Indian population residing there in those countries. Indians who left their home decades ago in search of a better life today live in every part of the globe and are still interested to know what the country of their birth holds for them. The popular Vivid Bharti service provides entertainment for 15 hours a day from 37 CBS VB centers and 4 shortwave transmitters at Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai and Guwahati on a synchronized meter which can be heard on the same wavelength in any part of the country. The programs are put out from Mumbai and other AIR VB stations relay. Regional stations originate a few programs at some specified timings in their respective languages. The onus for generating revenue for All India Radio lies on its commercial setup. In spite of the fast-changing scenario in the field of radio broadcasting, during the last few years, the commercial wing of the All India Radio, through its central sales unit at Mumbai and 15 main commercial broadcasting service centers located in different parts of the country and 10 marketing divisions, have been able to augment the overall commercial revenue of the organization year after year, along with maintaining its basic identity as a public service broadcaster. To realize its objectives, the All India Radio has evolved over the years a 3-tier system of broadcasting, namely national, regional and local. They provide news, music, the spoken word and other programs to almost the entire population of the country. Its vast reach, especially in the rural and tribal areas, make it the primary and sometimes the only source of information and entertainment. The national broadcast channel programs, which are heard on the medium wave in most parts of the country. The regional and sub-regional stations provide the second tier of broadcasting, giving programs in the regional languages and promoting regional cultural facets. The national channel of All India Radio works as a night service from 6:50 p.m. to 6:10 a.m. the next morning. Services of the national channel started on 18th May 1988. Having the entire area of India as its zone, the program composition of the channel has been designed to make it representative of the varied cultural mosaic and ethos of the nation as a whole. The national channel serves in 3 languages, namely Hindi, Urdu and English, with a vast variety of programs on science, health, sports, literature, humour, current social issues and the cultural heritage, so as to enrich the vast knowledge of its listeners. The education, culture and social economic development are the focal points of Vividha programs broadcast in Hindi and English on alternative days. Similarly, an Urdu program, Manzar, is broadcast daily. The magazine program on economics, science, sports, music and literature are all broadcast on the regular basis. Career guidance, current affairs and social issues are taken up in the weekly program Focus. Hourly new bulletins, alternatively in Hindi and English, are broadcast only from the national channel throughout the night. Whenever the parliament is in session, the national channel broadcasts recording of the question hour for the benefit of the listeners. The regional channels of the All India Radio are located mostly in the state capitals and in the major linguistic and cultural regions of every state. The regional channels, broadcast largely on the medium wave frequency, follow a composite program of mix. They also promote art and culture with a major emphasis on Indian classical music. Around 40% of the total broadcast on primary channels comprises of music, which includes classical music, light, folk, film and music of various other languages. News and current affairs program constitutes about 20 to 30% of the broadcast time. Radio plays and drama, health and family welfare programs, programs from women and children, farm and home programs aimed at empowering rural masses are the other important segments of the primary channels. The FM Rainbow channel of All India Radio was launched at a time when radio listener was declining, especially in big cities. The FM radio ensures disturbance-free, high-quality music to its listeners. Even the presentation style of the compare on FM channels was transformed to suit the changing needs of listeners. In its round the clock broadcast, radio listeners were served with a recipe of a whole new gamut of entertainment. Soon, FM radio acquired the status of a modern radio because it was speaking in their style and providing them with listening pleasure. The FM Gold channel was on air on 1st September 2001 at Delhi as a niche infotainment channel with 30% of news and current affairs component and 70% of entertainment programming. The duration of FM Gold channel is at present 18 hours daily as against the round-the-clock broadcast of the FM Rainbow. At present, the FM Gold channel is available in four metros, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai. This additional channel gave its listeners an option to choose between the two besides listening to other parallel running AIR and private FM stations in the area. This channel is trying to provide information interlinked with entertainment and being information update on traffic, airlines, railways, weather report, etc. The DTH radio channel is a satellite service meant for listeners who own a TV set. The DTH service is available through the DTH platform of Prasad Bharti with uplinking facilities at Torapur, Delhi. It is not a terrestrial broadcast service and the DTH program cannot be tuned in the ordinary radio receiver sets. The DTH will cover the entire country as well as neighbouring countries. The DTH is a 24-hour service broadcast digitally. The programming is planned in such a way that the repetitions are kept at minimum. The DTH service provides different language channels available in every nook and corner of the country. Prasad Bharti is an autonomous broadcasting corporation of India, or the BCI, and it was constituted by the Government of India on August 1997. The BCI was aimed at freeing the electronic media from the clutches of the government. The Prasad Bharti board functions at the apex level. The board ensures the formulation and implementation of policies of the organization and fulfillment of the mandate with respect to the Prasar Bharati Act of 1990. The executive member is the Chief Executive Officer or the CEO of Prasar Bharati. The headquarters of the Prasar Bharati are located at the Parliament Street in the national capital of New Delhi. The CEO is assisted by a battery of personnel of various specialized fields such as engineering and technical, finance, personnel and so on. The CEO also heads the Policy and Executive Committee, earlier known as the Management Committee of Prasar Bharati. According to the Prasar Bharati Annual Report for 2009-2010, Prasar Bharati is the public service broadcaster in India. It came into existence on November 23, 1997. The All India Radio is one of the two of its components. The mandate of Prasar Bharati is to organize and conduct public service broadcasting in India. The purpose of such broadcasting solely is to inform, educate and entertain. The Prasar Bharati also ensures a balanced development of broadcasting of radio. The goal of the Public Service Broadcasting or PSB is to meet community needs which exist beyond traditional geographic and institutional boundaries. With the move into digital age, public broadcasting is in the forefront of using new technology to provide better services and programs to an even wider and more diverse community. Community radio is a type of radio service that caters to the interests of a particular area in need of mass awareness. The broadcasting material of community radio has to be popular to the local audience, but can be a secondary issue for more powerful broadcast groups. In India, the campaign of community radio started in the mid-1990s, soon after the Supreme Court of India approved the idea, passed on its judgment in the month of February 1995 and declared airwaves are public property. This notion of the Indian government was passed on as an inspiration to groups across the country, and community radio started with only educational radio stations under somewhat strict conditions. On 16 November 2006, the Government of India advised a set of new community radio guidelines that allowed the NGOs and other civil society organizations to possess and operate community radio stations. The Indian government approved a community radio license that entitles the channel owners to operate a 100-watt ERP radio station with a coverage area of almost 12 kilometers radius. A maximum antenna height of 30 meters is permissible, and these radio stations are expected to produce at least 50% of their programs in the local range, and the program should be presented in the local language or dialect at the maximum extent. The prime focus is on developmental programming, though there is no clear restriction on entertainment. News programs are prohibited on community radio in India as also on commercial FM radio. The government, however, has recently opened some new categories of news and varied forms of communication that are permitted on radio, including sports news and commentaries, information on traffic and weather conditions, exposure of cultural events and festivals, information on educational events, civic announcements adhering to the utilities like electricity and water supply, disaster warnings and health alerts. 5 minutes of advertising per hour is allowed on the Indian community radio. Sponsored programs are strictly prohibited except when the program is sponsored by the government at the centre or state.